We look forward to continuing our collaboration with Amazon in this exciting space. But as you all know, AI will not be a workload that is just for the cloud service providers. It has the potential to impact all industries and all applications. I'd like to introduce now a leading healthcare company so they can share their analytics and AI journey. Montefiore Health is part of the healthcare industry that's poised for significant transformation. To share their new model in patient care, I'd like to welcome to the stage Dr. Andrew Racine, who's Assistant Senior Vice President and the Chief Medical Officer at Montefiore Health System. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
So I would love it if you would just start here and share a little bit more about what Montefiore is and does.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting us. Montefiore is the academic health system for the Bronx.
Okay.
One of the most diverse, vibrant communities in the United States. Okay. It also happens to be the poorest urban county in the country.
Wow.
Many years ago, it came to us, looking at our ability to provide care for patients in the Bronx, that a fee-for-service model was no longer going to be sufficient. And we migrated fairly aggressively away from fee-for-service medicine into risk-based analytics. And what that meant is we would go to the payers and we would say, we are willing to accept responsibility for the outcome of the patients. That will give us more flexibility if we move up the premium stream with them. So currently we have about 450,000 patients under some kind of risk-based contracting. But our goal is to move that to 1 million patients.
Okay.
And in order to be able to successfully manage the health care of that large a number of people, you need to have extremely sophisticated ways of processing the information about those patients to keep them healthy.
It's an amazing transformation, just thinking of fundamentally changing how healthcare services are delivered. So yeah, you need to know a lot about the patients, or the data set, as us in technology might call it. So can you share with us how you've used big data and data analytics and advanced computational platforms to help deliver on this new business model?
Sure. From our standpoint, what's going to distinguish advanced health systems in the future from others is the realization on the part of those systems that what they are is fundamentally information management systems.
Yep.
They're going to need to have the ability to gather, to store, to aggregate, and to analyze large amounts of information from data matrices on vast numbers of patients.
Yep.
Now, we actually have a fairly good track record of that at Montefiore. We've been doing predictive analytics for some time, but it's also become obvious to us that there is a significant difference between human modeling for predictive analytics and machine learning, artificial intelligence. It's the difference between trying to identify a needle in a haystack from trying to identify a series of needles in an entire field of hay. And it's clear to us that if you can get those kinds of parallel processing taking place, you can manipulate vast quantities of data and come to the sorts of clinical inferences that you need. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
In our intensive care units currently, right now, we have a system that has been developed by two of our physicians, Dr. Michelle Gong, who's an intensivist, and Dr. Parsa Miraji, who is an informaticist. And this process that they have instituted allows us to use real-time streaming data from patients who are in the ICU to predict who among those patients will 24, 48, 72 hours from the current moment be at risk for respiratory failure. That is a breakthrough technology that allows us to use information in real time to make clinical decisions that are going to allow us to intervene with patients and prevent them from having adverse outcomes. In order to do that, you need hardware that can catalog streaming data in real time from patients, and that's really how we've put to use our Intel technology.
I think that's incredibly impressive, and I think your patients, ultimately, they won't think of it this way, but will certainly appreciate that investment in technology that you're making to deliver that type of advancement and that fundamentally better care. Your journey resonates with me that so many enterprises are going through. It's just the application that you have is so personal. So I know you guys have had the opportunity, again, to use Xeon Scalable, load your data lake, use your semantic data lake into this new processor. What are you seeing?
Well, what we have found is that the combination of the scalable technology in our semantic data lake has allowed us to essentially do these analytics much more quickly
Okay.
at a much lower cost.
Good.
And what that does is it allows us to approach certain kinds of clinical challenges that we otherwise would not be capable of doing. I think it's equally important for us to acknowledge what Naveen had been said earlier, is that what we now have is a system with the semantic data lake and the Intel technology, something that has high performance, that's agile, and that's also secure. And
Yes.
from the standpoint of a health system, the security of data is actually a paramount
Quite important.
importance.
I can
It
see
also allows us to spend less time on the technology and more time on the patients. which
We'll
is really
spend the
what
time
we're-
on the technology.
There you
You
go.
can spend the time on the patients. That can be our deal.
That's
So
our partnership.
we're thrilled to be contributing to all the great work that you and the team at Montefiore are doing. What's next?
Right. So what's next is we've been applying these technologies to some of the most vulnerable patients in our system, patients in the ICU.
Okay.
But fortunately, most of our 450,000 patients will not end up in the ICU. So we need to be able to look at vast numbers of patients who are living their lives. And the real challenge for us is not to be able to predict who's going to get into trouble 48 hours from now, 2 days from now. For us, the challenge is to be able to predict who's going to develop chronic conditions 2 years from now.
Okay.
Knowing what we know about them now, even when they feel well and they look well, we need to be able to use the information available in terms of their genetics, in terms of their socioeconomic status,
Yep.
in terms of their utilization patterns, in terms of their preferences, to be able to predict who it is that we need to pay attention to now to prevent them from going on to develop the kinds of clinical conditions that are going to be adverse for them.
Yeah.
And that's the frontier. That's the golden fleece.
Yeah, truly preventative medicine. That's impressive. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing your journey
Absolutely.
with us. We
Thank
look
you.
forward to continuing to partner on it.